Hello there. You are listening to Africana Woman with Chulu. The Africana Woman is a live show that highlights our stories in our own words. We believe that to attract the lives that we truly desire, we must smash the culture of silence around the things that hold us back or keep us stuck. In our tribe, rest assured, you are not alone. The Africana Woman is for you, it is by you, and it is about you, girl, no matter where you are in the world. So, the Africana Woman, back again for part 2, is Miss Annie Mbako. Like I said, this is part 2 of a conversation we started last week, and the topic is British, ish in brackets, British Africans. Newcomers to the game. Now, let me just remind you a little bit about who Annie is. And if you have not listened to part 1 of this conversation, make sure you go back. Just stop it right now, go back and listen to it, and come right back. Okay? So, this is who Annie is. Annie specializes in diversity, equity, and inclusion with a particular interest in technology. She has a passion for embedding real diversity in organizations, fueled by a background in multicultural communities across 2 continents. Her current mission is to work with businesses to embed long-term and inclusive processes and operating models. Annie's accolades include the Times Top 100 Rising Star by We Are the City and the Northern Power Woman Future List. More recently, she was named among Tech Nation's 50 most inspiring, prominent, and influential Black voices in UK Tech 2019. Listen, we are talking to a powerhouse. So let's just jump right into it. Again, the topic is British Africans, newcomers to the game. Let's get started.
Like so many questions, but first let's address Likoke Peter. He says, what are the various things the Black people do to preserve their culture?
Yeah, so it really, a lot of it resides in gatherings or around gatherings. So for my tribe particularly, and I know a lot of other African cultures do this, and even the Caribbeans, so we've got like social banks that will take place on a monthly basis. So these are where, or they take place in different forms. So every month you put into a pot. For us, you put into a pot and one person receives. But it's not just about the banking. It's also about getting together as a community. So my parents made sure that was one of the things that we did. And that's the reason why we were in London every month, because we were doing this thing with our tribe. So we also have family gatherings. So now in the UK, I know that there are a lot of local cultural events that are supported by councils as well. So they'll try and put on either entertainment events or it would be marketplaces. And even before this happened, with the last time that Black Lives Matter took place, I saw a massive upshot in Black-owned businesses, but also businesses that were selling African produce. So either food or jewelry, clothing, art. There's been a massive rise in those. So people have been creating events and creating communities on platforms like meetup.com, which is really popular in the UK. So anyone can create a meetup and, you could create a meetup around art, around going to, watch a particular African film or, supporting some kind of artist. There's loads of things that can be done. But I think the traditional habits that take place in Africa, traditional gatherings, they still happen here as well. People do them as soon as there's a small cluster. And I have to say, some of the consulates or embassies are supportive as well. So sometimes they will put on events where everyone is involved, or they'll do a tour of the UK. I know the Cameroonian High Commissioner does a tour of the UK, the major cities in the UK, and you get to ask questions as well. So there is a lot that people can do as a community, but always in the home. It's always about eating your native food, and I think regardless of where people are, even if they're somewhere where there is no African food or whatever, they will travel and stock up on the food and make sure that like once a week at least they have, some of their traditional dishes. So yeah, food plays a major part in it.
Okay. So I want to find out from you how, I don't know if you know the statistics of it, in terms of the African community, how well are they doing in society, in like economics generally, how well are they doing? Because if I'm thinking I want to migrate to the UK, what are the chances of me making it?
Yeah. So there is a difference, and it's got to do, from what I can see, I haven't got any statistics, but it's definitely evident that so people maybe like me whose parents brought them here, there's quite a few of them who are doing very well, as in they are at senior management level. You've got some members of parliament even. There are people who are controlling things. So it's not like it was back in the day. Every time we have an election, even I'm surprised at the number of particularly Nigerian and Ghanaian members of parliament that we have, all Nigerian origin, just by their name. There are quite a few. But if you are coming into the UK, because of the way that visas and things are right now, as an adult, it will take quite a while. I'm not sure I think before, when my parents came, it was easier the route to getting a British passport was much easier. Right now, what the UK government have done, obviously because they don't want that much immigration to be uncontrolled, what they have done over the years is they've made applications, renewals of visas and all that kind of stuff more expensive. It does take longer to get British citizenship in some circumstances. Even if you come, as a doctor, pharmacist, I would say it's going to be a bit more difficult for you to climb up the ladder. But having said that, there is still plenty. I know in the Cameroonian community, there's still plenty of doctors coming over because they still have a good chance. And once in a while, sometimes there will be.
Yes, because I think what you're saying right now is getting in is hard, but once you are there, will your standard of living at least improve?
Not necessarily drastically. It depends what you do, and it depends what kind of job you have. There is still stagnation in terms of promotions at every level, even within, I'd say, like the NHS that employs a lot of Black people. It doesn't mean that just because you come here that you will rise to a level where your standard of living is good. If you fall into issues with immigration, even if you don't do anything dodgy, that can actually ruin your life, because what will happen, most often happens, is that the government puts you in a state where they tell you can't work while your application is in process. And that state, I've met people where that state has lasted for years. So it isn't just the case that you come and you get a job and then you rise. No, that does not happen, because let's remember, as I said before, we are guests in this country. And in some ways still, that's how we're treated. We are the minority. So you're coming into a country as well where, let's not forget, UK still has a lot of people trying to come in. A lot of people coming in from Europe. That's reduced a little bit since Brexit, but still people are coming. And then, you've got people coming in from all sorts of different continents. UK is a popular country that people still want to come to. So you're competing against like the rest of the world. And that's something that it's very difficult to tell like family back home, that it isn't just the case that, if you've got a master's or a degree and a good job and a good track record, that you come here and you're going to make it. Because even when you get the job, the difficulties of climbing through a company, or it may be difficulties of setting up and running your own business, You never know. It is potluck. It's not set in stone. But I would say the routes that are popular are the ones in the NHS usually, because once you get in, I think because of the way that the contracts are set up, you are more protected in a way than other companies. So yeah, those tend to be popular. Doctor, nurse, they will always be popular.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, when I think of a community like, let's say, the Indian community, it's so, when they come to the UK, they're very connected, but then they're also from the same country. And then I don't want people to think that, oh, okay, Africa is like one country, which it isn't. You've got all these different countries. And I just wonder, how well do the different people from the different African countries mix, socialize, collaborate? How is that? How is the interaction?
So when I was growing up, I guess maybe you could say we were sort of isolated. We mainly just interacted with Cameroonians, maybe a few Nigerians, if they happened to pass through Manchester, or people that were connected in London. I don't think the older generation, unless they physically live near each other, I don't think the communities were or are that well connected. These days, I think it's getting better because people are starting to realize that we may have our differences, but at the same time, most of society just looks at us one way. And if we're going to succeed, we need to work together. So there was, I hope there isn't so much, but there was, when I came, a bit of a divide, particularly between Africans and Caribbeans. I'm hoping that's, as far as I'm seeing, it is eroding somewhat. So we're still respectful of each other's cultures, still aware, but particularly as people start, having children here, or they come here when they're younger. By the time you grow up, you know that we are in the same bucket in some ways. So we have to manage together. But I don't think the older generation work together that well at all, I have to say. I think some people have tried and they've been successful in pocket, but overall across the UK, across different African communities or African countries, I'm not sure. And I don't know, it may be because it may be happening a lot easier now also because of social media, and the more information that we've got coming across, and younger people are a bit more open. And even I would say a lot of the people that come now, that come, as adults as well, they are a bit more open to mixing and probably realize a lot quicker that we need to start doing things together. But it has been a process. And there was also, because the Caribbeans came and settled and they had a foothold here before us, that also caused a bit of tension, because we tended to come, because of work or university, and we tended to end up in higher skilled jobs than them. And they were here. They got trampled on. To be fair, they came when they came in the 40s and 50s. They really got just reduced to nothing. And they came with their degrees as well. But the world UK was a very, very different place. They had far less chances than Africans did, and that's why the tension started as well. But yeah, we hopefully seeing a bit more of a leveling out and trying to, understand each other, because they paved the way for Africa. I mean, I know a lot of Africans don't know this or they don't think about it, but they paved the way for us. They paved the way for every other Black person that came in this country, really. It was a massive sacrifice. So we need to be cognizant of that. But yeah, the older generation, I think, especially for a lot of Africans who, like my parents, some of them, their aim is to go back and retire back home. They really never considered this home. They just came to give us a better life. And, once they're done with that, we just go back and retire in the sunshine. They're not interested in anything else. So maybe that's why they didn't bother mixing so much. I'm not sure.
Okay, so do you think, because I know, like, you know, when different communities go to different countries, whatever they are doing is to, usually the profits and whatever monies they're making goes back to their home countries, you know? Now, do you see that in the African community, or what is their main focus? And I'm not saying that, oh, we want them, we have to force them to move back to the continent or whatever, but I'm just thinking around, is there any drive or move to reinvest in the continent and just reconnect and make sure that, you know, there's also development where we're coming back, where we're coming from?
Yeah, that definitely is. And I think it happens to varying degrees, but when people come over, I mean, regardless of what age it is, the closer, if they're not born in this country, definitely it's something that's almost like bread and butter in the culture that you have to help. So it's evolved. My parents have always sent money and they always will. But then I look at things like, are there things that I can do instead of sending money? Are there things that I can do myself? And does it mean that can I take myself and go to somewhere and make a difference? And when the last credit crunch in 2008, when that happened, I saw a lot of my African friends just go back home. And that definitely helped to boost the economy in some of the countries. But there definitely is still a lot of interest. And with the internet evolving, with social media evolving to a superior level, the involvement of Africans, regardless of where they are on the globe, on projects that are for the benefit of Africa, it's definitely exploded. There's still, I think, with the stronger the connection to the home, there's always going to be some kind of movement to help develop things or take advantage of the economy there, whatever it is, or even people moving back. That's always going to happen. What I'm seeing the evolution of as well is that there are still actually some people who, for them, because they were very, very wealthy back at home, they tend not to do that. They tend not to send money for specific projects to people that they know, but maybe they'll donate to charities instead. And they do tend to keep wealth either for themselves or make sure that they have generational wealth, which is something that it's not a bad thing. I think as we evolve, we need to also learn how to do that, because always sending money back home, and sometimes people send money back home when they haven't even got money themselves here. They're not even, they could be living in some shack and like eating rice every day. But when people see them on social media or they see them back home, they think that, oh, you're rich. It's a big problem, actually. And I think that habit, it's very difficult to say or to tell people that, because as soon as you come to UK or Europe, people expect you to pretty much look after the family or contribute. I think we need to start being realistic, because that is not helpful, and we need to work together as a community better here as well to support the people who are coming over so that they can, get to a comfortable level a lot quicker. I think that can happen, and that's what I see the Asians doing, the Chinese do it, Jewish people do it as well. We need to work on that network of here, and then they can look after people back home or whatever comfortably, but not before, because I've seen people go into debt. They borrow off credit cards, they borrow off loan sharks, all sorts of things, just to make sure that people back home have got a comfortable car and they're living in a big house. Meanwhile, you can't even afford to live properly here. It's really, I have seen that. It's shocking. So it's so common. And that's something I've personally found very difficult. I've had people ask me for money, and it's difficult to just tell them no. So I personally had a filter where I would say, I'm not giving you any unless it's for something educational, or I can, see the benefits, or unless it's a direct investment into a business that I think is going to work. I think we need to work out our wealth habits. We haven't got very good wealth habits at all as a community. We need to work that out. And it's very difficult to stop seeing people in the UK as purse strings, but we need to look at it in a different way. Because I think some people still think that money grows on trees in this country for everybody, and the reality is it doesn't. We're at the bottom of the totem pole. I'm sorry to say it, or near the bottom. When people come over here, as I've mentioned before, people think that there's a money tree here. As soon as you land, you'll be okay. You'll be good to look after your people back home. A lot of people don't know this. Even though my dad helps people and my mum does, it took them more than 100 applications had to go without a salary for a very, very long time. And so did my mum. Like, she had to retrain as well. And those are, doctors. So what of if you don't have, you come over with a management degree and you think that you'll get, or an accounting degree and you think you'll get a job in an office? It really isn't like that. It takes a long time for a lot of people to get a job. Unless you transfer here with a particular company and then they fight to get the visa for you, the likelihood is if you make these applications on your own, you're going to experience the same systemic racism that we experience, as in if somebody looks at your name and it doesn't sound English, you will go to the bottom of the pile, or your CV will go to the bin. That is the reality. But in terms of generational wealth, let me just go back to our habits. I think it even has to start from back home in Africa. We have to stop seeing people. Sorry.
And what you're talking about is black tax. So just define that for us and let people know what black tax is.
Yeah, so black tax. So every time you have your salary, you can't even, people forget that you've got bills to pay, you have to live. So if you've got to take a portion of your salary and send it back home every single time, you're always going to be on the back foot. Reality is you're probably going to end up with zero in your bank account, and you'll constantly be borrowing from either people or a bank or something. It's going to be difficult. So people end up working 2 or 3 jobs just to make sure that they've got something in their bank account at the end of the month. And doing those 2 or 3 jobs, while you can physically do them, it's a tax on your mental health, really. And also, you just get tired. There's only certain hours realistically that you should be working every week, sustained. And if you're going over that boundary, you're going to be just tired. But it ends up with a lot of people who are because they're constantly sending this money back home, even if they have it or not. They end up just not building up any savings, really, because every time you build up a saving, somebody dies at home, or somebody gets married, or someone gets something, and you have to send that over. So you don't actually really ever have a safety net for yourself. And that's really, really dangerous. And we have to get into a habit or some point of really building safety nets for ourselves. But that also comes from within our community. We need to be like the Asians and the Jews and the Chinese, where we can, either borrow from ourselves or find a way of the community supporting you somehow or instilling those habits in. And I've actually partnered up with a wealth manager recently he's really, really keen on teaching these wealth habits to the Black population and making sure that we get to that stage of generational wealth, because there's a lot of things that we do and we take it as a habit and tradition that white people don't do, and quite frankly they have more money in their pockets because they don't do those habits. And there's going to be a challenge, but I think at some point a lot of Brits who were born here, Black British who were born here, are starting to not do some of those habits. And I think it's going to be controversial, but I think some of those habits have to be done. We do have to be a little bit more selfish. And even when we're thinking of, when I help the family, you do need to start thinking of, okay, who's your nuclear family? Because maybe those are the only people that you can help, not your cousin twice removed, etc., 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 some random family that you've never spoken to, you shouldn't be helping those kind of people. And those are the kind of difficult things that we're going to have to start doing, I'm afraid. And people back home as well. Some people, I would say, like even in Cameroon, they've actually got opportunities, but they don't look at them as opportunities because they look at people here like walking bank accounts, and they don't take advantage of those opportunities at all.
Yeah.
yes. Walking ATM. We really, and we need to stop looking at people like that, because sometimes actually, your people at home, they've got an advantage, and you can call someone up and link them with something, and then they can start something for themselves. And there are people who do it. I've got a cousin who does, I've sponsored him through some IT certificates years ago. They didn't cost me anything at all. But he managed to rebuild my grandfather's house. He's managed to send, his siblings abroad, all because he had that IT certification. It didn't cost me much, but I was very particular that I'm not going to give you this money so that you can buy jeans and trainers. It's going to be for your education to better yourself. And then he sorted himself out from there. And that's just from Cameroon, where we were number one in the world for corruption, like several times in a row. We're always in the top 10 in the world for corruption. So if that can happen in a small town, it's not even the capital city, it's in a small town in Cameroon. If something like that can happen, imagine, what other people with more resources can do. We need to start doing things like that and placing boundaries, I think, as Roz has mentioned in the chat, because if we don't, we're going to explode. But I can see the newer generation of British Africans, they are actually placing boundaries. And it'll be interesting to see how that changes, if that changes, because obviously there are still new people coming in to the system who may not be following that route. But I have to say, the ones who are putting boundaries, those are the MPs and the senior managers and things. You cannot get to that level if you keep giving to every cousin, every auntie or whatever. You will not get to that level. So people have to make a choice. And I know it's difficult for some people. My dad would actually be maybe having a go at me and giving me a lecture for saying things like this, because he was one of those people who's, generous to the hill, but I'm not, and cannot be. And it doesn't matter, even if my salary is double what his was when he was full-time working, I will never be that generous, because I know that a lot of the money that he's given away has gone to people just enjoying their lives, and they've got nothing to show for it. And I didn't come here to suffer, quite frankly. That's my issue.
Hey sis, thank you for listening to Africana Woman with Chulu. This show is only possible because of your participation. These are your stories in your own words. There are actually two ways that you can be featured in the Africana Woman Network. You can either be a guest blogger on the Africana Woman blog or a guest speaker on the Africana Woman podcast. If any of these interest you, please contact me on africanawoman@gmail.com to learn more about the procedures to be approved. Now, back to the show.
What are good wealth building habits? Could you go through those?
Oh, right. Well, I'm not a wealth manager, disclaimer out there. But this has got to be investing when you do have something, rather than saving. I think investing, we need to get into the habit of doing that, because we always, and I don't know who brought this thing out. A lot of people, think that saving is good. Saving is great, but you need to invest. You need to make that money grow, because when it sits in a bank account, it does nothing for you, especially in this country when, inflation is going up and down all over the place, and they're doing crazy things like Brexit. Actually having your money sat in your bank account, it does nothing for you. So you should put it into, and banks have this service where they can put it into specific accounts where it's invested in stocks and shares, or you can invest in another thing that can be done. I'm trying to encourage more people to do this in Manchester. Invest in a business that's been going for a while. There are quite a few people with like tangible businesses or online businesses, and they just need a bit of a boost.
First of all, Annie, the saving culture is just non-existent. Mm-hmm. So first you have to save something to invest, and then to save And then when you got a little, if you got something, then invest, let your money work for you.
Yeah.
You tell your money what to do.
Yeah.
And then, don't just let it be sitting. Yeah, I'm not really into, I think like what you're talking about, we call it chilimba or banking, one of the two. And, where people are not using it to, when it's their turn to get the money, it's usually just for things that are not going to multiply their situation or their funds or whatever. Yeah. And, they'll be like, oh, let me go and buy, I don't know, let me go buy a fridge. Let me go buy some sort of depreciating asset. And I'm just like,
Yeah, and that's exactly, you've put onto a point actually, because everyone can understand, or they should understand, what depreciating assets are or appreciating assets. And, I know for a lot of people, it's like, I guess, cooling their heart or soothing their heart. If they've worked really hard, they want to go and buy a flashy car and they want to go and buy all these things. But the question you need to ask yourself is, does it depreciate in value? Can it appreciate in value? Can whatever you're buying, can it make money for you? So if the answer is no, and you're not on 6-figure salary, even if you are anyway, like, what are you doing buying this thing that costs a fortune and it's going to start depreciating the minute you start using it? What is the point in buying it? And that's Warren Buffett's kind of basic principle in investing, actually, and other great investors as well. But that's one of the things that he does. And that's one of the reasons why he still lives in the same house that he's been living in for decades. He still drives the same car. His lifestyle is pretty much still the same. It's because he looks very carefully at those appreciating assets, depreciating assets, blah, blah, blah. And he doesn't start spending on things that he doesn't need. And this is another thing, all human beings, but particularly I'm seeing with Black people, and I know it's because we've been through a lot of pain, but I'm seeing a lot of people, when we start feeling like we've made it, we start buying all these flashy things, to fit in or, look great, and start doing competitions against each other, like who's got the Louis Vuitton bag, who's got the Gucci, this, the what. No one cares. That is not, in my whole life of, and it's been maybe 2 decades of hanging around with mostly white people, I see a lot of white people that earn a lot of money. You will not find them buying Moet and Chandon. You will not see a designer belt in their wardrobes. And I'm talking about, these are senior managers. You won't see a drop from them. But they're the ones that retire at 50 or whatever.
I was going to say, what I've seen is a lot of people see their dreams and aspirations through movies. So in the movies, they're saying, oh, wow, okay, to be rich, the definition to be rich is to have all these flashy things, and that's not, it doesn't necessarily translate in real life. So, we're getting all these notions from Hollywood and whatnot of what it means to be rich. Yeah. And that's the downfall of many people's finances.
Yeah. And also we're forgetting as well that some of these people, when they're rich, the reason why they could buy all of these things, maybe at a younger age, is because their family already has wealth, and it's not going to hurt them, to buy. If you have to keep sending money back home, even if it's a little bit, or that, I don't know, with your parents retiring, you're going to have to look after them. You cannot be going and flossing and buying flashy items like everyone else as well, even if you earn the same money, because you need to remember that we're starting on a back foot, and we have, whether it's black tax or responsibilities that culturally other people wouldn't have. We've got those. And another point, actually, let me just say before I forget, is things like life insurance or insurance in general. I say this every time someone dies in the family, and thankfully my dad has got the message and sorted out his own funeral. But things like that, we're in the Western world now. It can cost tens of thousands of pounds just from the UK to send a dead body home. I didn't know that. I mean, someone asked one in America before last year. I think it was like 15,000 because someone died in Hawaii. $15,000 it would cost to send the body back to Cameroon. And when
it's just sending the body, because when you get to Africa, it costs a plot to actually bury the person. Like literally the amount of money I would spend to buy land and develop and whatever, that's how much it would be to bury someone in Africa. And then you don't have insurance.
Yeah. We're really not thinking about our family if we don't get things like life insurance to make sure that they don't spend tens and thousands of pounds, when they bury us. We need to, that's one habit I think that can start right today. It doesn't need any education. Life insurance starts from as little as £5 a month in the UK. I know that for a fact. And you can even arrange the details and everything about your funeral so that, people don't, because the thing that really irritates me here, and I know it's controversial, but when people die here and I start seeing people asking for contributions to this and that, and I'm like, you've been here for more than 20 years. I'm sorry, like, what is your excuse? So you now expect me to dip into my pockets when maybe I don't have, or I don't have enough to do what? So you can fly someone all the way back home to bury them. Why can you not bury them in the UK? Nah, that's one thing that really, really irritates me that I will not budge on. And I say this every time someone dies in my family. I sing the song of life insurance and I tell them, my dad has got it sorted out. If my dad can sort it out, and it's not expensive, what he did, he just paid like one lump and it's gone. Even if it's that you can only pay £5 a month or whatever, do it. There is zero excuse for living in Western society and not having insurances like that. And I think it's also, Muma said weddings as well. Oh gosh, don't get me started. They are some of I didn't really how expensive or how much money people were spending on weddings until within the last few years, but it is something where I'm actually seeing a few people just say, no, I'm not doing it, because you can buy, or you can put a deposit down for a house with the amount that you spend for a wedding. And if I compare, if it's, I don't know, a property that you can rent out versus a wedding that's one day, it'll be a lovely day, but then it's one day and it's gone. For me personally, there's no comparison, or even just instilling the habits of, if you're going to have something like a wedding, just try and save for it. How do you save? And even just the concept of, okay, the wedding costs this much, but the thing that shocked me about African weddings in the UK and, Black African weddings in the UK and white weddings is the difference in costs.
How much?
It's crazy. Like, for white people, there's a lot of things that they just leave. Not everything has to be perfect. Not everything has to be flashy. Look at Meghan and Harry, for example. Their wedding, it may have cost a lot, but it could have cost a lot more. They omitted a lot of things in that wedding just to make it kind of economical and make sense for them. But I don't know why in the Black community we can't really do that. We have to be, have to have the bougiest wedding. It has to show in whatever magazine, we always have to have the big show off. Must it always be like that? And if you know that that's the kind of wedding you want, fine, fair enough. But then you have to build in those habits of, start investing then. If you're 19, or I don't know, start investing from your pocket money, which is possible. You don't need loads and loads of money to invest in anything these days. Start from there if you want a big wedding, because by the time that you reach, I don't know, for most people, it's like between their mid-20s and early 30s. That's when a lot of people get married. Then you'll have enough money. But if you know that, you want to do it from that, just start then. So instead of, I don't know, maybe going out drinking or, I don't know, going on a holiday, how about, just put some of that money aside for your future wedding. And that's fine. If it takes like 5 years, because that's a good time to put an investment through, get some interest off of it. Definitely be doing that. But those are the kind of habits we need to just double stop and think, does every single thing in what I do, does it have to be bougie? And the answer is no.
It has to be bougie. All right, we have to wrap up. Guys, we can go on forever. You and me, we can talk forever. So this is my final question. What do you, or maybe second last, how do you see the African community moving forward in Britain? Like, what do you think needs to happen? What would you like to see?
I don't know, I would love, and I am seeing a lot more unity, because we know that we have to move as one. I guess we've realized, especially after the last month, well, maybe some people have realized exactly where we are on the totem pole as a people. Now that we do have more people, we need to use this really. So I am seeing already a lot of people gathering in clusters, and organizing themselves in terms of what are we actually going to do. So there's a massive thing about the Black pound and the Black economy, and there are people even talking about building another, the equivalent of Wall Street or some kind of economic street, clusters of villages. Because we've got Chinatown, some places have like an Indian row. We don't really have like African corners in the UK. So it'd actually be great with all these new businesses that are sprouting up or have been sprouting up over the years. Wouldn't it be great if we can have like African corners in all the major cities in the UK, or African Caribbean corners? We do have some communities that, they have shops that are generally African or Caribbean, but it's just because they live there. But it's not like the Chinatown, where it's like a tourist attraction and somewhere where, non-Chinese people would go, for example. We need that kind of place where non-Black people will pass through. But I am seeing a lot more unity. There are obviously people who are taking advantage of the situation, because there's loads of money flying around now in the name of trying to rebalance things. So people are taking advantage, but it should be, I think in the end, as annoying as the advantage takers are, in the end it will be beneficial for the whole community. And I just love to see, particularly for people that come from outside the UK, a lot more support from within the Black community when you come, a lot more support and confidence for them. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to do in the tech industry, and to some extent still in business, is to make pathways for younger people, for as far as we can go, and make a difference, because we've got some people have some kind of influence in the system, or we can build or rebuild a different system. I don't want teenagers, by the time they get to adulthood, to feel or experience some of the same things that I did, when I was that age. And that's something little that I can do, and maybe within the tech industry I can certainly influence that. But I want to see everyone working in their own corner, doing their thing to help the movement, and not trying to like take over, because not all of us can be, the Obamas or MPs or whoever. We can't all do that, but we can definitely do something in our little corners. Yeah, and I definitely don't want to be having conversations like this again. I hope it will change.
Yeah. All right, Annie. Thank you so much. I love you. I love you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Take care.
Oof. She just brought it home. Oh my goodness. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Annie. Okay, there is so much that I got from this conversation, but I think my top three, and it was very hard to pick them, were Black tax is a tax on your mental and physical health. Just, trying to keep up with sending money back home, but then, things are not so great in your situation. It's hard, guys. Number 2, good generational wealth building habits includes investing your money. Don't let it just sit and say, oh, I'm saving it. No, invest it. Let it start working for you. Number 3, stop comparing yourself with families that have actual real wealth, trying to buy what they are buying. Listen, we are starting on a back foot, so spend your money wisely. I'll say it again. Comparison is a killer. Just don't do it. Okay, I really, really hope you enjoyed this episode, and I cannot wait to hear your feedback. So send us comments, send us reviews. Okay, so if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Pandora, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts. Just click that subscribe button and you will be helping us so much. If you first subscribed, gave us a 5-star rating, and then reviewed the podcast, we would love to hear what you thought about this episode. I can't wait. I also love to connect with you on social media, so find me at Chulu by Design, or come on over to the Africana Woman Facebook group and we can dive deeper into this topic. So, see you next week for the next episode. It's going to be completely new. And always remember, my hope is that you love yourself, flaws and all, and attract the life that you desire. This has been a production of Ulendo Creative Media. You can find out more about their services on www.ulendocreative.com.